What's up, Kabroda crew? Welcome back. Thanks for joining us again today. Had a little bit of trouble last Thursday, so we weren't able to get on the live stream. Little computer trouble, but we're all back up and running. Got everything all fixed up and ready to go. So we're back here for another day on the live stream. It's Tuesday, August 11th. So a little bit more to go for summer, and then we'll be over. But yeah, it's been a nice little week so far. Haven't really done too much of anything, so I guess it depends on what you think of as nice. But yeah, we haven't really moved too much here. A little bit up, a little bit down, mostly sideways. Kind of came up into last night, but other than that, really not a whole lot of movement. Last weekend we kind of dropped down a little bit, though, coming here into Monday, after a pretty sideways weekend, honestly. Mostly sideways. Obviously, there's a little bit up, a little bit down. Again, if depending on your trading system, you could have made some money here over the weekend, but again, nothing super interesting for us. And then we dropped down Monday night or Sunday night into Monday. Kind of started dropping off, and then Monday into Tuesday we're kind of running sideways. So yeah, we'll see what's going on today. We'll break down the price action, kind of see what's happening, like I said. But yeah, not looking super great for any kind of trade or anything, but we'll see how it goes. We'll see what's happening today. We'll kind of take a look at the bigger time frames. We'll take a look at obviously the 15-minute, kind of break it down, and just see where we're at. Looks like we've got a couple people here today already. So welcome in Terry, welcome in Kathleen. Thanks for joining. Nice to see y'all here again on this beautiful Tuesday morning. We're still in our heat wave here. I think this is one of the first days in a long time we're actually not going to break 100, supposedly. Not going to break 100. We're sitting around a high of 98 today, so a little bit cooler. We went on a walk this morning. It was a little bit cooler, not quite as warm, a little bit more of a breeze. Still pretty warm, though. I mean, we got back and started to walk in. Now it's like, ooh, man, kind of warm out here. The house feels freezing when you come in from that kind of temperature, so it's good, but it's cold. But yeah, had a nice weekend here, made some sourdough, kind of just chilled out, went fishing, played some pickleball, all the normal kind of stuff. But yeah, pretty good weekend overall. So yeah, let's jump into breaking down the chart and see where we're at, see what's happening, and see what we can find out. So we'll start off. We'll head on over to Kabroda.com, kind of to start off and see where we're at. We'll get our lines on here, kind of break down all of that, change up all of those, and then we should be ready to go. Excuse me. So let's head on over there. If you guys haven't seen it before, this is Kabroda.com. We have a bunch of different tabs up here, but the only one we're looking at today is going to be, the main one we're going to be looking at today is going to be the market radar. The market radar is like the heart of our site, basically. So we'll have, we used to have a couple different coins on here. Now we're sticking mainly to BTC. So you can see we have BTC on here. And then it tells you some different stats about BTC. So we'll kind of do a little quick run through these. We'll grab the lines from here and then throw them on our indicator on the chart and kind of see what's going on. So today BTC is around 64,346. We are pretty close to that. We dropped down a little bit. This is kind of frozen at the time that it starts up. So that'd be at around 8. But since then, we've dropped 200 or so. So not too far for Bitcoin, but, just keeping it real, I guess. we are bearish. We have 3 out of 5 of the indicators pointing to the bearish side. So, I mean, take that as you will, I guess. Overall, we are bearish, but we're pretty close to, flipping, maybe being bullish. 3 out of 5. That's almost half. It's over, obviously, but it's pretty close. We are exhausted, so the chart's kind of been going down for a while. It's kind of ready to at least get a little bit of a break, a little pull off. So that's not too great for the continued rundown, or continuing on that bearish side. As for the jewel, it is lined up with our indicators, our indicators pointing bearish, so that's a good thing. The multi-agent system today is telling us to stand down, so no trade here on the 15 minutes a day. At least for our system, we can break it down. We'll talk about it, but for our system, it's telling us to stay out of the trade today. Breakout line is going to be 64,476.89, and the breakdown line is going to be 63,833.0. You can go ahead and take a screenshot if you want to, or pause the video, grab the lines. Either way, that's great if you want to throw those on the charts. We're going to just use the copy button and we'll throw those on our charts. But real quick, before we head back onto the charts, I'm going to check out these trades down here. So you can see we have nothing on the 4 hour. There's no signals for today. We do have a long on the 1 hour with the entry around 64,192, stop around 63,880. And a target of 64,505. So I think it's going to go up a little bit. Not a crazy amount, 505. That's not too far up above us. Excuse me. Honestly, it's not really a big jump, but it is thinking we are going to go up a little bit. So we'll see on that. Maybe we'll throw that on the chart here in a minute and kind of see what it looks like. And then again, 15 minute is telling us stand down. So we have nothing really there today. Just looking at the 1 hour for our system. So let's head on back to the charts here, and we'll go ahead and get our indicator out and switch up to have it on Tuesday, and we'll change the levels here. All right, so these are today's levels. So we have that 64,474. And then we have the 63,000 level down here, 63,833. So you have your breakdown down there, and then breakout up here. So those are the two levels we kind of went over earlier. And then on top of that, we have our 30-minute range here in yellow. So that whole range right there is going to be a 30-minute range. The red line here is going to be your daily resistance, and then down here will be your daily support. We're going to call them daily resistance, daily support, even if the price action, let's say it is on top of the daily resistance, we'll still call it daily resistance, just to keep it from getting confusing. But technically with support and resistance, they flip-flop. So if price is on top of them or above them, you're going to say, okay, that's a support line. And then if it's below them, it's going to be a resistance line. Just how TA works. If you want to be in correct standing, I guess, with how you're going to say it, or if you're talking to somebody and you're trying to explain to them it, just make sure, you're using the right terms. But not a huge deal, I mean, if you're talking to somebody and you say, hey, there's a support level up here, they might be like, what? A support level? But it's the same meaning, same idea. So you should be able to understand what you mean. But as of the lines, we're seeing a little bit of a 30 range here, closer to the top. So that's kind of looking like a breakout, with how the level is setting up. The other thing that kind of leans to the breakout side is we do have a nice little gap here, under 0.5, but not by a lot. So nice little gap there. It is on the inside. So whenever the daily support or daily resistance is in between the breakdown and breakout levels, you're going to have pretty good move typically. You know, you could say the same for the daily support here. As long as the gap is good, though. So that's the main thing. And if you look at the gap here on the breakdown to the daily support, not too great on the gap, only a 0.06. We look for a 0.5 normally. So, you know, even the top side is a little bit under, like I was saying. So you need to go, it would need to be just a little bit farther down before we can consider it a nice level. Overall, though, you know, that is pretty nice. Maybe not, you know, perfect like we were looking for, but it is pretty nice. Definitely pointing to the upside. You know, all the indicators here on the dot lines are kind of pointing to the upside, so that's a good thing. You know, for that upside trade that the 1 hour is kind of talking about. So yeah, looking pretty good. Overall moving averages are not great. We kind of broke through the 21 there, looking like we're kind of, well, we already kind of came down and tested the 50, and wouldn't be too great if we broke that. It's not, again, you know, any kind of thing on my charts is going to be an indicator. So, and you need a couple of different indicators to kind of points to the same direction to really tell, you know, which way we're going to go. Depending on the indicator, you know, you're going to have different strengths or put more weight into different ones, just depending on, I guess, something you kind of just got to learn by doing it. But, you know, overall, the lines are looking like they're going to break to the downside. Now, is that a huge indicator that'd be looking for, you know, to happen? In my case, probably not too much. It is looking to the downside, though, for those levels there. The other thing is your jewel down here, which we do put a little more weight into, is actually doing the same. These are actually different moving averages as well, so you know, makes sense that they would line up with something like this. But you do see the downwards price action kind of coming in. You're seeing all of the different levels kind of flip over here on the jewel, which typically means you're going to continue running to the downside a little bit. So definitely could see some downside price action here just based off the moving averages in the jewel, as well as I don't know, just could come down to this level, I guess. You know, it could definitely come down and retest this level, especially with it still being in the range. That's why when we trade, we typically trade you know, this range here. So if you're going to break out to the outside, you need to actually break this line before we're going to say, hey, we're going to go up, or break this line before we say, hey, we're going to break down. We have talked about the macro on here a while ago, and we'll kind of break it down today again. But you know, the charts have been pretty stagnant lately, and the macro is actually the reason. So we'll go out to the 1 hour first, and then we'll kind of go out to the longer time frames and check it out. Kind of what I'm talking about of why the charts are kind of wonky lately, why it's hard to you know, get some solid trades in and kind of see what's going on. So we'll head on over to the 1 hour first. Pretty interesting here. You can see we kind of came up, hit right into that 200 there. Definitely did a nice little test there, and now we're kind of falling back off. So, you know, just by the looks of that looks like we could get a little bit more of a breakdown as well on there. However, the jewel on the 1 hour is actually looking pretty good for the upside move here. Let's go ahead and throw that trade on here. So I'll get it here and we'll throw it on. Oh, got to turn on. There we go. All right, so this is the 1 hour trade that it's looking at here. Pretty interesting. So it probably took the trade around here in the morning, I would say, just based off of how it works. This obviously runs a little different than the 15-minute trade, you know. It's about a 1-to-1. If you took that trade, obviously right now we're pretty much at the entry. and we wouldn't need it to go up too far, just kind of come up and actually test the top line here on our well, I guess we need to break through our breakout line just a little bit, and then that would kind of give us the target one for the 1 hour. Not too bad of a trade, but not awesome either. It kind of just depends on the market. Again, you know, our longer time frame trades are still in somewhat of development, so we're still working on kind of going through and seeing, you know, okay, this is technically a trade, and we throw it on here, kind of check it out, have everything kind of logged, tracked, see what happens, and then when the trade's over, we kind of go back and reanalyze, you know, this one plus the other 20 that happened in the last whatever, and then kind of look at it and say, okay, what went wrong, what went right, what are we looking for, what things should we change, what new ideas should we have on this, and we'll kind of change it up. So all that to say, I guess, is yeah, it is a little bit new. It's definitely more of a beta type thing that we're kind of bringing out. So, you know, this is a decent trade. It doesn't look too bad, but it's not like our 15-minute trades, I guess. It's not quite as honed in, quite as ready, quite as great. Although these have been firing off pretty well. You know, the last, I don't know, 10, 20, or I don't even know if we've done 10, 20 so far, but probably around there, I guess now. But anyways, they're not quite as they're not quite as good as 15, like I said, but they're doing pretty well. It's called it a good couple of times, especially the last little bit. It's definitely been calling pretty good. So definitely starting to get it honed in. But yeah, that's a decent little trade there. So we'll go ahead and look at the 4 hour, break down a little bit more. Overall 4 hour, take these off. Overall in the 4 hour here, nothing really stands out. You know, we're kind of in flip of the trend here in a way. You can see we kind of had a downtrend happening, and then we just kind of flipped it by breaking the top here ever so slightly. We kind of broke the top, and then now we're kind of doing a little bit of a pullback. So technically, you know, if you're looking at this 4 hour here, we should fire out. Definitely looking pretty bullish here on the trend there. Daily wise, let's look at this. So daily, we did have that double top up here. I believe we talked about this last week. Kind of came up and broke off the top there, and then came up and broke off the top again. And so now the question is, you know, are we going to see the kind of rise here, and then we're going to continue falling and continue down even more, or are we going to see a little bit of a breakout, break this double top and kind of ruin the structure that's kind of forming there and continue up? We'll see. It's hard to tell, you know. It's just kind of something you got to wait for here on the daily to see what's happening. Definitely looks like a double top though right now. Definitely looks like we could continue down. But who knows, you know. The only way you can actually truly tell it was a double top is, you know, kind of past hindsight, I guess, if you're looking at this, you know, in the future and you see price action has continued down and we got a break below the bottom here, and we got a break and a close down here, then you could look back and say, hey, you know, that was the double top there. We should have bought up there and sold, obviously. So that's the only way you can really confirm a double top. Obviously, you know, good pattern traders can kind of look at this and say, hey, you know what that is, that double top. I'm going to jump in right here and take it down. Or maybe even they're like, hey, you know what, this is a little bit of a pullback. I'm going to jump in here and take the trade down, put my stop above the double top there. You know, we're not really pattern traders, but if you are, maybe you're looking at that and you're saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to take a daily trade. That could last a long time though. You know, daily trades do last a little while. Definitely could be sitting that for a while, but you know, if that's your system, then that's your system. Overall for us, what's that mean? It just means we are looking more bearish than bullish here on the 4-hour, I would say. We'll kind of look at the daily brief a little later. That'll break it down a little bit more, but essentially, yeah, we are in somewhat of a bearish look here on the daily. Moving out to the weekly. So the weekly is the main reason why we were talking about, price just having a hard time kind of, picking a direction and really being a nice trade. Nice to look at, nice to kind of decide, hey, we're going to go up today, we're going to go down today. That typically happens when the market is in good standing. It's looking nice. It's got a direction. We're moving in that direction. Right now, we're not. We're sitting sideways. We've been running sideways. We've been sitting like that for a while, since around June, end of June and over. Even beginning of June into the end of June, I guess, kind of running sideways since then. We did have a little bit of a breakdown. It looks like we're going to possibly continue there. But yeah, just not real great price action. I mean, even since, what's this, May or so, I would say, when it started. And you might ask, well, why is that? Basically, what we've been looking at is the Elliott wave. And if you know what the Elliott wave is, it's basically, just another indicator that you can kind of look into if you want to. But essentially, how you use it is there's a little thing over here on trading view, and you're basically just picking out a trend. And the Elliott wave, all it really does is kind of tell you, well, when is this trend most likely going to end? Not when is it actually going to end, but when is it most likely to end? Because no indicator is actually 100% perfect. So what we'll do here is you mark the top, and that is your start. So you have the top of the trend, and then we go down. Once you get the close below the last higher low, then that'll be that's how you tell, all right, well, this is now consider we're moving into more of a downtrend. So then you look for, all right, we got a lower high there, and then now we got an even lower low, or sorry, the last higher low. So you get a low, and then a higher low, or lower high, and then a lower low down here below this low. So that'll tell us, hey, we're in a downtrend because we got a lower high than this one, and then we continue down and got a close below even this lower low. Then you got a high, and then now what we're looking for is either a break of this level down here. That'll tell us we need a break and a close below the wave 3 low, and that'll tell us, hey, we're going to continue down. Or we need to come up and we need to get a break above the wave 4. And basically what happens, well, if we go above the level 4, basically what will happen is if we get above that level 4, that'll kind of flip trends. So we'll actually be doing the opposite of what we did up here. So if we get above that level, that'll say, all right, well, now we're kind of flipping. We're starting to see a bull trend kind of emerge out of this, and we're going to have to start moving on and kind of setting up our Elliott wave almost for the other side to kind of see what's going on there. So why I say it's not in a trend though is we haven't really done either of those. So we haven't broke to the upside, haven't broke to the downside. We've just kind of run down, and now we've kind of sat stagnant. And I mean, look at this thing. We've been sitting stagnant for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 weeks. So pretty long, fifth of the year almost. That's a pretty long time to be sitting stagnant, just kind of sitting sideways. And we did drop a little bit, started to come down, almost looked like we were going to break below that level. Didn't end up really getting a nice close below the level. And so now we've kind of been running sideways. So now we kind of need to see that breakdown and close below before we can confirm it, before we can decide that's what we're actually going to do. And we'll talk about this a little bit more as we do the breakdown again, but that's why we've been looking at this and saying, hey, pretty much every day we've been like, it's not too great today, You're probably getting tired of hearing that, honestly. You've probably been, last 10 weeks we've been saying that, but that's the case. We need to break down, we need to break up. Either way, That'll kind of give us a direction, and that'll make it where you can kind of actually trade again and kind of look at the market and say, hey, you know what, I know what it's going to actually do today. If you look around, there's tons of traders having issues. They're all having a hard time, trading right now. A lot of them are actually kind of staying out of it. They might be saying they're trading, or might be doing little trades on their lives just for fun, but overall, most smart traders are saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to stay out of this, because the market right now is just not in a good spot where I can actually, predict it and make some money on it, based off of TA and all of that. Obviously, there's different systems, different ideas. So some people might be doing better at this time, but majority of systems are actually having a hard time because the market is not really moving anywhere. We don't have a nice directional move happening to either side, really. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. We'll go ahead and check out the daily brief here real quick. And then that'll kind of be it. So we'll get that opened up here and move back on to Kabroda.com. So this is our daily brief. If you guys haven't seen it before, essentially this is what we're talking about releasing here for the public. It'll basically be, you'll get one of these in your email, kind of with just some breakdown. All of the stuff on here is kind of still up for improvement or changes. We might not have the discoloring, or we might change how the wording kind of is, the fonts, whatever. That's all up for grabs. So if you guys are, maybe don't like certain things on it, just go ahead and leave a comment. We'd love to hear your all's input on it, and we like to kind of hope to improve on it before we actually bring it out to the public. But this is essentially what it'll look like. A lot of the information is going to be on here. It just might not be as cut and nice looking as when y'all get it. So starting off, BTC compression standoff, no executable setup on either side. So yeah, we don't have any trade today. We're just looking for to kind of sit on our hands, sit back and kind of watch today. Nothing too interesting. Structural picture today. So BTC is currently in that bear wave 4, like we talked about earlier. Corrective bounce off the 60,055 wave 3 low. The structural map identifies 80,632 as the normal ceiling before bear wave 5, or before wave 5 activates towards the 42,000 to 45,000 zone. Roughly 16% of that structure distance traveled. Price remains early in the arc, with 6 consecutive sessions of stacked divergence warnings and a daily volatility squeeze compression to zero breath have produced an unresolved directional standoff. The next meaningful structural event is the compression break. Whatever direction it declares sets the tone for the next tradable leg. So essentially, like I was saying earlier, we have that 60,055 level on the bottom. If we're going back here to the weekly, kind of checking it out, we have that 60,055 level down here, waiting for it to break to where we can say, hey, we are going to continue down. And then we do have those targets down there, 42 to 45,000. We've been talking about that 50,000 level, but that's just because it's a little more conservative of a level on top of those. 42 to 45,000 though is the levels that we'd be looking for if we break that 60,055 level. But there's also another side to that. So right now we're kind of compressing. We're getting ready to go one of the two ways. If we break to the upside on that from that compression and we get above that 80,632 level, then we actually could continue to the upside. Right now we don't have any targets really for that. It's hard to make targets when you're in a downtrend and you're looking for targets to the upside. You could be kind of calling, hey, you know what, we're looking to take out some of the previous wave lower highs maybe. And those would be not too bad of targets. So, if we're looking at it on here, you can kind of be looking at, wave 2 here, so around 98,000, or even go all the way up to the top of the waves here at 126,000. We could be looking at taking out those. Obviously, you know, 2 is kind of the first target, and then you're looking for the next one of that 126,000. But you know, we have to break that 80,632 level first, and really from that, once we kind of break that and we look at that and we go back and check it out, we will actually have some better targets from that there. So right now we don't have really anything too great on that, but what we want is for it to come and just break either side, because that'll kind of show us which way we're going to go. We have Fear and Greed Index at 29 out of 100 today, squarely in fear territory, reflecting elevated broad market risk aversion. The sentiment reading does not conflict with the structural picture, it reinforces it. Market in fear and a price structure and compression in consistent states. Participants are withholding commitment, and the charts confirm it. So essentially, we've been in fear territory really for a long time. We've been in extreme fear, we've been in fear, kind of just bouncing between the two for probably since May, maybe the end of June, you know, when we kind of started going sideways. We've been in there for a long time. Definitely one of the longest times I've seen. You know, just kind of running sideways. We don't have a lot of money coming in, don't have a lot of money. I mean, I guess there's some money going out, but there's not a whole lot of money coming in either. Not a lot of money going out. People are kind of just, you know, stepping back and saying, hey, like, what is happening? What are we doing? Are we going up? Are we going down? What's going on? Because I don't know. And that's where the fear comes in, I guess. People are scared. Today's energy. So the 4-hour trend is bullish, hourly is flipped bearish against it, and the 2 primary driving time frames are pulling in opposite directions, canceling out the directional energy required for a sustained mentioned move. The 15-minute momentum signal is rebuilding from rest, not aligned across time frames, not building directional velocity. Across time frame, exhaustion signal is active on the 15-minute, confirming the prior move is cycled through its fuel. The daily volatility squeeze at 0.0% breast signals in expansion is imminent, but direction remains unresolved. So essentially, you know, we are just continuing to build that out the tension today, continuing in some more compression, continuing sideways, kind of waiting to see, you know, which side are we actually going to break to, which way are we going to go. Today, especially, you know, even on the shorter time frame, we kind of have that same compression kind of forming up. We don't really have a direction either way. You know, I was talking about maybe the longer side looking nice, but then, you know, we looked at the indicators and the moving averages, and you're saying, hey, those are going to the downside. So really, you know, which way are you going to go? You kind of have signs pointing up, signs pointing down. There's no real clear direction. You kind of got to wait for it to break one of the two to kind of see what's going to happen. Just kind of wait and see what happens, really. There's no nice indicator telling you, hey, you know, it looks like we might go up today, or hey, it looks like we might go down today. Nothing really going too great in that area. Yeah, so that's essentially just why we're standing down. Yeah, nothing too great. You know, along with, you know, the other longer time frames kind of conflicting as well. So we kind of looked at the 1 hour and the 4 hour. 1 hour looking a little more bullish, whereas the 4 hours kind of showing that, or sorry, 1 hour is looking bearish. The 4 hours looking a little more bullish here. You know, as we saw the trend flip and everything. So we'll see what happens, but not looking too great today. Nothing super interesting. There's not a whole lot, you know, setting up either way. And price is just not telling us a whole lot here for today. So, you know, another day to kind of sit back, relax, sit on your hands. Definitely kind of boring. You know, last couple weeks definitely have been boring. Not gonna lie, there's definitely a lot of time where you're not doing a whole lot the last couple weeks. Sometimes trading's just like that. You know, actually, summers are typically kind of like this over the course of, you know, just the history of Bitcoin. That's just how summers kind of have ended up being. Don't know why. Don't really have like a reason. You know, I'm sure somebody could make one up, you know, with people being on vacation, or maybe the market makers, or keep the market stable just because they're not around their computers as much to watch it. Who knows? Essentially, we just don't really have a nice clean direction. And you know, it's just, like I said, it's just how summers are. So not always, I guess, but you know, majority of the time that's how summers are. So we'll see what happens. We are, like I said, we are coming into the end of the summer, so maybe we're going to see Bitcoin kind of start to fire. You know, we're seeing a lot of compression kind of start happening. You're seeing a lot of momentum kind of getting compressed, ready to kind of fire off in either one of the directions. So we'll see what happens. But really, until then, that's kind of it. So thanks for joining the live stream. Hope to see y'all here tomorrow. We'll be back here at 8:30 a.m. again, checking out the charts and kind of getting a read on tomorrow's price action, see what's happening. Thanks for joining. Thanks for sticking with us through the boring last couple weeks, you know, as we're kind of sitting around. Hopefully our you know, breakdown of the markets are helpful or educational. If you guys did like it, hit that like button. It really helps us, you know, get out to more people, helps us get seen by more people, and hopefully helps those people, you know, as well with kind of learning something, or, you know, getting a little bit better of a read. But yeah, thanks for joining. We'll catch y'all tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. CST, whatever your time zone, you know. Happy trading to y'all though, and we'll see y'all then.